Morning.
So this flame is 1,500 degrees Celsius?
Yes, that's right.
An experiment in the future of construction, pitting one material against another. The result is almost instant.
So see here how flames come up here.
The wood block on the right catches fire in a matter of seconds. The other one is virtually unscathed. So the question is, if you live somewhere with a wildfire risk, which do you want your house to be made of? The one you probably picked uses a 10,000-year-old technique.
So it should be sticky and it should not fall apart by itself.
So it's really simple. It smells like dirt, it looks like dirt,
yes,
feels like dirt.
That's because it is dirt, mixed with a chemical stabilizer or cement to make it water resistant. Researchers at the University of California, Davis are studying compressed earth block construction with the hope that you can extract the material for free from the site you're building on.
The idea is that you can rent a machine like this to build your house.
Yes.
So somebody does have to get their hands a little dirty.
Yeah.
About a minute later, the machine produces these.
And then it's gonna make block out of it.
Strong enough for a 2-story building, says Dr. Nitin Kumar, and affordable because of the material involved.
It is not even the fire resistant, it is non-combustible.
It's not fire resistant, it's fireproof, windproof, earthquake proof.
Yes.
That's a tall order for this brick.
Yes.
But you're confident in it.
Yes, yes.
The idea is still in its infancy, but it's part of a growing body of science around building homes that can withstand what climate change is throwing our way. To find out more, we've come deep into the mountains of Northern California, where crews are working to build what they call a fully wildfire-resilient home. Its design may not be everyone's cup of tea, but for those already devastated by disaster, safety is first and foremost.
Vern, you're building these Q cabins, these houses. You're not saying they're 100% fireproof, but sort of.
Right, we don't really use that word. What we do is we build a structure that is 100% non-combustible.
So this is all...
Vern Sneed uses steel as the main construction material on his Quonset huts. Instead of hammering nails into wood, the house is welded together. Even the framing avoids conventional materials that can catch fire.
So this is called rock-on.
In favor of this.
And it is a layer of concrete board, a layer of insulation, and a layer of concrete board. And so both sides of this are resistant to fire.
So if you were to take a blowtorch to this, to the steel, what would happen?
You would find that it does not catch on fire.
None of Sneed's Quonset huts have been tested in an actual wildfire, but steel only melts at very high temperatures and doesn't spread flames. When the house that originally sat here was flattened by a blaze in 2019, a similar Quonset garage on the property was the only structure on the entire hillside left standing. Enough evidence for the owners to call Sneed days later to start their rebuild.
A Quonset hut being a curve, if the fire is approaching the curve, the building is fading away from the fire. So that's a real advantage when the fire is approaching a building, to have the building sloping away. We don't show an overhang. We have an overhang, but it's all steel. So there is no soffit venting, no way for any fire to get into an attic.
The cost, he says, is pretty similar to a regular build while being mold and insect-free, too.
I mean, it sounds like the perfect place to live. No termites.
So why aren't more people building like this?
You know, this is Northern California, #1. We have a huge wood industry. Wood is relatively inexpensive here, so it's hard to compete. But at the same time, what is the cost of a house that, that burns down and the rebuilding of it?
A question people in regions at risk of wildfire all over North America are grappling with.
We're heading now to look at some more ways that people are building fire-resilient homes. Northern California is no stranger to wildfires. It has seen several in the last decade that have destroyed communities, including the town of Paradise. A lot of people in the area believe it's a matter of when, not if, another fire comes through and ravages another town, so they're vowing to be prepared.
Heavenly Father, please help us.
The Camp Fire leveled the town in 2018, killing 85 people and destroying almost 19,000 buildings. Most of them were older and built before any sort of wildfire standards had been introduced in California. Today, just 10% of what burned has been rebuilt, but the town now has some of the strictest fire building codes in the U.S.
The Paradise Camp Fire wrecked our world, burned my house down, took everything from us in a blink of an eye.
Flames tore through Gary Ledbetter's home just 10 days after he and his wife had moved in. Refusing to ever be a victim again, he's taken drastic measures in the new construction on his old site, setting another example for communities at risk.
Anything that's a weak point on this envelope of the building is an entry point for a ruthless fire.
Ledbetter has gone above and beyond the Paradise and state regulations for building in a wildfire zone, earning his property a first-of-its-kind designation from the Insurance Institute for Business and Home Safety. IBHS spent more than a decade testing materials and designs against a wall of embers, allowing researchers to create a standard for what they call a wildfire-prepared home.
And I see a sprinkler up there.
Yep, I have a sprinkler. I have a network of sprinklers on the rooftop.
This home is built far beyond what's now considered safe, with the highest standard in fire-resistant roofing and those sprinklers mounted on top. Vents stopping embers from getting into the attic, a 3-layer stucco siding, and double-pane windows. There's also a large amount of space between his house and anything that can catch fire. He's even got the smallest details covered.
See that wrapping around that pipe? This is fireproof material, and this is what they use on the exhaust pipes of motorcycles. That's not a requirement.
But it all comes back to how much this costs. Ledbetter knows not everyone can afford to do all of this. He says governments need to ante up to help.
Policy. Go for policy. I guarantee you, if the government could say, I'll give you this much money if you qualify to replace these windows, replace the siding, do something to make your house more resilient, that is cheaper than letting it burn and then losing a whole township. It's cheaper to proactively invest in people's homes.
So Anita, when it comes to government subsidies for homeowners in vulnerable areas, where does Canada stand?
We are really behind. In the U.S., most Western states have some sort of grant to help people retrofit their houses. Canada has next to nothing. While many cities have strengthened building codes for new homes, most people live in older ones, and oftentimes the communities hit hardest by wildfire are rural with an older population on fixed income.
And of course, it can be very expensive to make the kind of changes that are required.
Exactly, upwards of 30 grand for basic fire hardening. And so there are a lot of calls for government funding to help people do that. And if we don't do it soon, experts worry the result could be catastrophic. What's your fear if we don't do it?
We're going to lose communities. And not just lose communities, we'll have a mass casualty event. That's what myself and most of my fire colleagues worry about the most. Years like this, if we don't do this in a big way, people will die.
Ian, until anything changes, a lot of people will remain at risk.
Anita Bathe in our newsroom here in Vancouver. Thank you.